Hello and welcome to the GoldenGoal podcast. We're back again
with our 7th place team.
It's our second recording session of this Premier League season.
Seconds ago, like last time, I reckon. How long were we filming for? About
A
5
while.
hours straight.
Yeah, it was a long time.
So we're prepared for another 5 hours today.
Yeah, we're ready.
So we've done Champions League, we've done Europa League. So now we're going to be talking about a team that's probably just going to miss out.
Well, so I think 7th place they get into qualifiers, don't they?
Yeah, it's respectable. I think it's dependent on the FA Cup.
Oh yeah, of
winners.
course. Yeah.
But yeah, our team in 7th is last year's champions, Leicester City.
Leicester City.
Now, I think if you go from being champions to 7th, that is seen as disastrous. Think about Manchester United back in 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
But I don't think 7th place is bad.
It's
at all.
not. It's not for Leicester.
I think Leicester fans would be absolutely delighted with that.
Do you know what? I would be delighted if I was a Leicester fan for 7th place.
And some pundits are like scaremongering it and saying, "Oh, Leicester could potentially get relegated this season."
Oh, fucking shit! Rubbish.
We're going to dismiss that off the bat. I think that's ridiculous.
That's crazy. I mean, I can't believe that, like, that's even being sort of considered as an opinion. Like, if I were running something like Sky Sports or BBC Sport and one of my pundits went on and said that, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, that is just ridiculous. That's like, do you remember when Paul Merson came out and said, oh, Crystal Palace are going to make Champions League football? That, for me, is, like, on that level.
I mean,
it's rubbish.
I mean, anything can happen. I mean, Leicester proved that to us last season, but there are a lot of positives to take from Leicester's pre-season and the signings they've made. So I think we should get started with that.
All right. Strengths for Leicester. I mean, to be honest, keeping 2 of their 3 key players from last season.
I think that just goes to show that the Leicester players really care about the team. I mean, that was one of the reasons why they won the league, is because they had that cohesive team unit.
Exactly.
And I mean, they've kept Mahrez. Vardy signed a new contract.
So has Mahrez. Mahrez signed one yesterday.
There we go. Schmeichel, Drinkwater's looking to sign a new contract with the club as well.
It's a shame about Kante, but I mean, there's not much.
I think we'll go into that with the weaknesses later. Yeah. But I mean, you're keeping all but one player from a team that won the league by 10 points.
I mean, do you remember when Liverpool came second in the league and they lost Luis Suarez from that team? We're not talking about that kind of, like, keeping a team together, where you're losing, like, the absolute focal point of that team. Because, I mean, that was sort of like a team built around one player.
One superstar.
Yeah. Whereas this team is more sort of like you have 3 or 4 players in there that you can build around.
It's a well-oiled machine, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you've got key players in every position. I mean, to be successful in the Premier League, you need to have a great spine.
Yeah.
And they still have got that spine. They've still got a fantastic goalkeeper. They've kept the same defence as last season.
Yes.
They're defensively sound. I mean, you've still got, Robert Hoof back there and Captain
Wes
Morgan. And they only let in like 30-odd goals last season, so they're keeping that fundamental defensive wall.
And the thing is, the thing that would worry me most if I was a team like I don't know, someone who needs a lot of work done to their defence, like Man City.
Yeah.
If Man City bought like a whole new defence, the problem that you've got then is that a back 4 needs to be they need to be well adjusted to each other. So they need to know each other well, and they need to know their habits and stuff. And the fact that Leicester have had that, and they've had this back 4 play together, and they're going to play together again, that to me says that they don't really have much to worry about defensively anyway.
I mean, I remember Sir Alex Ferguson, Pep Guardiola, when they've been interviewed, they always said they always build the teams up. The foundations are always that defence.
Oh yeah, always from the back. Unit. Build from the back.
Why would you build and that's what Leicester have. I mean, you think about the likes of who've been changed. Like for example, like Man City have changed up their defences recently. Manchester United, Arsenal don't really have a great defensive unit, but Leicester still have that, and that's going to stand them in good stead because a lot of their results last year were 1-0 wins where they kept the clean sheet.
Yeah.
And if they can do that and they can build on that momentum,
And there's a reason why Wes Morgan was in the team of the season, because he was just so good. He was fantastic. He was like, I mean, I'm thinking back to like 4 or 5 years ago when he was like an injury prone, pretty shit centre back playing for Nottingham Forest. And I look at him now, and he's just a completely different player. Like he's absolutely transformed under Claudio Ranieri, who, talking about strengths, fuck me, the fact that that man is still there, to me, is unbelievable.
it just goes to show, because these players, so for the likes of Vardy, him choosing to stay instead of move to Arsenal, I mean, he's in his late 20s. I mean, that would probably be his last chance to move to a big club.
Supposed
big club. And he's decided to stay at Leicester.
Yeah.
I just think it goes to show that they just must have such respect for their fans, such respect for, the manager.
For the club.
It's just such a great rapport. And I mean, you saw that last season with, the way that Leicester City fans were apparently like rewarded with like free food and free scarves,
Yeah.
free kits and stuff like
A car.
that. Yeah, I mean, but their fans as well were rewarded with things during the season, and the atmosphere at the stadium was just absolutely electric. And I mean, that was built upon their great performances. But it's like if the fans feel they can have a good relationship with not only their players, their manager, and the owners.
Yeah.
I mean, you're absolutely on to win it. Can you name another club in the country that has that dynamism, that kind of like where they love the owners, they love the manager, they love,
I actually can't think. I can't think of one. I can't even think of one. Like, you're talking about just in the Premier League. I can't think of a single football club in this country where they have all that together.
All that understanding. Because Manchester United, yeah, they kind of got a new manager. Manchester City have got a new manager. Man United don't like their owners, so Manchester City don't really have that great relationship with their owners. They're almost like this sugar daddy kind of figure. Whereas Leicester, they know what's going on at the club.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get, I mean, this is the 19th of August, so Leicester are going to play Arsenal tomorrow. And I mean, you get Arsenal fans going like, "Oh, we're ready to beat Leicester tomorrow." It's like, if I look at you two clubs together, like in this current state, you're like, Leicester will shit on you. Like if like, I would not be confident at all if I was an Arsenal fan going into a game against Leicester.
And I mean, I think that is it. I think that is, they do have kind of like a fear factor. Like, I think they have respect now from all the clubs in the league.
Yes.
I just hope that they do well this season.
So do I.
I think it was absolutely fairy tale last season to go from
it was amazing.
5,000 to 1.
It was amazing.
Most likely to get relegated to champions. I mean, last season they were like 5,000 to 1 to win the league. This season they're 33 to 1. I mean, those odds completely slashed.
That's mental.
I mean, also what I think is great about the club, as well as like, because we're working from the back here, as well as having this like defensively solid unit, they have so much creativity.
Yeah, for sure.
Musa, Mahrez, Albrighton, they can expect to like create chances of Vardy still.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I'm not sure if they're gonna. I didn't see their first game of the season. I'm not sure whether they've changed system. But I mean, a front two of Musa and Vardy, that would be devastating if with the creativity that they have behind them.
I'm very excited about seeing Musa. Like what he achieved like last season. Was it? He was
CSKA.
At CSK. He scored 17 goals, and so obviously the signings are a massive positive. But he can play in the wing, and he can also play through the middle.
Yeah.
So and he's got this unbelievable pace.
Yeah,
and you saw that against Barcelona in the friendly as well when he scored twice against them.
Yeah.
He's going to be an unstoppable force, and he's another. And that's what I've loved about their transfer business is they've signed little amount of players which won't upset the boat, which won't rock the boat, but also they haven't signed any big Galacticos or big players that could like cause
unrest.
Yeah, because you could imagine that like these players are very much like the underdogs, they're very much like, no one knew much about the team going into it. So, for example, last season, if you had Leicester City and a hybrid of Leicester and Arsenal, you'd have picked the whole Arsenal squad. If you were to do a combined X1, same with Manchester United. They're all players that you didn't expect to be. You wouldn't expect any of the Leicester players being the team of the season.
No. And yet they dominated it.
And I'm just so happy they didn't sign like a big, well-known player, because they could have, with the allure of Champions League football, they could have signed a big player. Imagine if they signed I can't thinking of a player they could have signed.
Imagine if they took someone like I'm trying to think of someone from a big club who was like transfer listed and not wanted. Like, say for example, like Jesse Rodriguez, who went to PSG in the end from Real Madrid. If they'd have signed someone like that, I would have been a bit sort of like, I don't know.
Because then it's almost as if like he'd feel, if he spent a lot of money, he'd feel pressured to centre around the team around that player.
Exactly.
When the whole point is, it is that like fairy tale understanding of playing as a team, working as a team, hard work and determination paid off. And he's bought players that are hard working and will gel into the team.
Well, the thing is, he hasn't even bought some of them. I mean, like, Ron Robert Zieler, I think he bought for very limited. He was either on a free or it was a very limited amount of money. He is a very good goalkeeper. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he started a few games. And Luis Hernandez, who's a centre-back from Sporting Gijón, he is a quality centre-back. He is like... He's a player who I think probably I'm not sure of the whole story, but I think he probably rejected Sporting Gijón because he just basically, they offered him a contract and he just didn't want one. Because he's good. Luis Hernandez is a really good centre-back and he's young as well. I think he could fit really well into that Leicester team.
I also think they've got good replacements as well. Like, they've identified that Kante's left.
Absolutely.
And with Mendy, who was captain for, was it Nice?
Yes, yeah. I believe so. Yeah, it was either Nice or Caen.
Yeah, no, it was Nice. He was captain for Nice. And he's young, he's hungry. And I just think that, like, I'm just glad they just subtly they've made subtle changes. They haven't been, like, making the headlines.
No.
And yeah, I just think, obviously Kante's going to be missed, but I'm just so glad they haven't been spending loads of money and losing that identity and losing what we love about Leicester City. I mean, a neutral fan... I mean, you being a Leeds United fan, your team isn't in the Premier League. You must be rooting for Leicester this season.
Of course, yeah. And I mean, it's not only that as well. It's the fact that even like fairly high-profile signings that they've made. I mean, they signed Kapuska, who when we were watching the Euros for Poland, he was quality. He was really hard-working, going up and down the wing. He is exactly the kind of player that Leicester would want. And yet, nothing really has been made of that at all.
And that's what I think Ranieri wants. I think he doesn't want this media attention.
He wants to go under the radar.
And that's what he played on last season.
Of course.
But that leads me on to my first negative.
Yeah.
Are you ready to move on?
Yeah, of course.
My first negative is I think they loved that role of being underdogs.
Yeah.
I mean, Ranieri actually interviewed recently. It was like, there's more chances of like seeing ET or something than Leicester win the league. But we know that's not the case anymore.
That's rubbish.
He liked that kind of like back against the wall. There's no chances to win the Premier League. But now we know we can win. Now we know that they can win, and they are that all the Premier League clubs are going to be like eyeing them up massively and seeing them as challengers because they are defending champions, and I think they like that. And this season it's going to be difficult because people are going to be coming to Leicester with their A game. It's not going to be like, Leicester, there's no way they're going to win the league. Like, even in March and April, people were like, no, Leicester still aren't going to win the league. No, now you are. Yet people are still, although there's some idiots for attention saying you're going to get relegated, there are people that are thinking, hang on a minute, you're playing Champions League football, you're defending champions, you've got to be expected to defend your title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, something like, I mean, I suppose it's almost similar to when Man City first won the title, because even though they were threats, because like they were making sort of Champions League, Europa League football before that, but they were never like properly title challenging really.
No, like I think they won the league. It was 2012, the first time.
2012.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, 11, 12.
Yeah, and I think they won it a year earlier than everyone expected them to. Like,
Yes.
it was like they're challenging, and that's when they really hit the ground running.
That's when everything started kind of not like going downhill massively, but like they weren't as exciting and fun, and like it wasn't sort of like you weren't rooting for Man City
no,
anymore.
like they're probably the third. People were expecting to finish third or fourth, but there was no way people thought they were going to win the league.
Exactly,
that season.
that's my point, and that was the closest thing we had to a sort of Leicester City back then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, back then you probably thought it was going to be Manchester United or Arsenal winning that league, and then Man City came out of nowhere and absolutely smashed everyone. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting, especially because like, it's weird because I'm not sure because we've got a juxtaposition with Leicester where we expect a lot of media attention to be put on them, but then again, this transfer window, they've made quite a lot of signings, but they've all kind of gone under the radar. So I'm not sure how much media attention is actually going to be put on them. And also, a good thing for Leicester that might combat your whole worry about the whole media thing is the fact that now you've got Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho, Paul Pogba, Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
It's just like diverting the attention away.
Exactly, yeah. You've got all these people diverting the attention away. And if all that hadn't happened, you probably would have a lot of media attention on Leicester.
And I think like Ranieri, the way he's managing it all as well.
Yeah, for sure.
He's always been that calm, collective, kind of like spiritual, like Yoda-like presence.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, he is very Yoda-like actually.
And it's almost as if like that's echoing down to his players. And I think it's good that Jamie Vardy. I mean, I think Jamie Vardy, the whole saga came and went really quickly.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of attention on that. Because he is the poster boy for Leicester City, and had he moved to, I think, even though he isn't the best player at Leicester in my opinion, I think it was Kante. I think he's the poster boy for Leicester. He is like that kind of like symbol of Leicester.
I think that Leicester fans would have been more angry to see Vardy go than they were seeing Kante go.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Because he literally epitomises everything what Leicester's about. Underdog, coming down from the leagues.
Well, you'd think that if Wes Morgan probably wasn't captain, you'd think Jamie Vardy probably would be.
Yeah.
Or he'd certainly be a contender for
Definitely be up there, yeah. Do you have any other weaknesses or worries?
I do. I'm a little bit worried that Leicester might struggle in the sense that they have quite predictable football.
Or with the 4-4-2 formation.
Yeah, it's just a little bit.
There's no real plan, but they didn't need a plan B last season.
No.
And the reason why I'm going to link it into squad depth is because last season, Ranieri had the consistency because he pretty much picked his same starting 11 again and again and again and again. And the reason why I didn't get the squad depth is because they were so lucky with injuries last season.
They were.
And they haven't made that many signings as well, like we said earlier. And I'm worried that if they're not as lucky as they were, and if they lose out on like key players such as like, say if like Morgan picks up an injury or Jamie Vardy, is there really that plan B?
No, you think not.
And I'm just concerned that if they do miss these key players on the pitch, what's going to happen?
It's like we were talking about with Chelsea. It's like if the 4-4-2 formation is like so. It's very much if one key part of that team goes, the whole thing falls apart.
It's like a Jenga.
Yes. We compared Chelsea's tactics to a Jenga tower, didn't we?
Yeah.
So, I mean, another thing as well with squad depth is that they could tire out because they looked tired, really, towards the end of last season.
And with Champions League
Champions League games, yeah. And I mean, they were lucky because they got knocked out of the cups fairly early.
And that really helped them and stirred them instead because they could focus on the league from around about like February onwards.
Exactly. So, I mean, like, like it's scary. Like the weaknesses, although there aren't very many of them, they're like quite big, and it's like if they come into play, it's going to be really scary for Leicester.
But I do feel like they do have so many influential players on the pitch. Like they do have a team full of actually. I feel they have a team full of like quite big leaders, like Peter Schmeichel,
Casper Schmeichel, you mean?
Casper Schmeichel, Hoof,
Yeah.
Morgan. You know, they've got strong leaders on the pitch. So you think that maybe if they miss one player, it wouldn't be the end of the world. It's just that they're not. It's just what Ranieri expects. He likes having a small squad to work on, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's not like he likes to chop and change. With the
Yeah.
lack of plan B, you're kind of thinking, and if teams have figured it out from last season, which they would have done, because there'd be a lot more. Obviously, going into last season, like Manchester United and Manchester City wouldn't have been focusing on Leicester as challengers. Now everyone's got all eyes on them. They've really got to think of something else. They've got to think of the second route. They can't stick with that 4-4-2 all season, surely.
Well, of course not. No, I mean, it's the kind of a thing of like, if Leicester really were really gonna go for this season and go for another title, you think they would have a plan B. And I wonder whether the fact that Ranieri he hasn't brought in like amazing players, but he's brought in quite a few. Maybe he has got a plan B this time.
And maybe that's one of the reasons he bought players that are under the radar, because it's going to be another thing like last season where they signed likes of Kante and it was like this diamond in the rough. And he's signed a lot of players from France, the French leagues, like he did last season, that performed well. So maybe he knows, and maybe he's the one that knows if he's got a plan B or not, and we'll see that next season.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be interesting because when we look at Leicester at the end of this season, it's almost going to be a sense of like, I think it's really going to go one way or the other. Like it's going to be a sense of like, oh, they did that was great after what they built on last season, or it's going to be like, oh my god, look at all this wasted potential.
Exactly. And they're also a team built on momentum as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Obviously they lost their first game of the season, which was a massive shock from Hull, and it's about how they pick themselves up, because last season they never really had to do that, did they? Because when they lost, I think about 4 matches last season, 4 or 5 games last season.
Well, they lost a fair few of those at the start of the season, to be fair.
But now they're kind of used to winning. Is it going to be a bit of a shock? Is it going to be difficult for them to pick themselves up from that?
I'm not sure.
Because last season, had they lost to a team similar to that, it would have been like, it wouldn't have made the back pages. But remember, that was the big talking point of the first game of the season, other than the Arsenal match, was Leicester losing, the defending champions losing. It was all on the back pages.
Yeah.
And the players are going to see that. They never would have had that. It's like, that's what the media do. They like to build up teams, and next season they like to try and destroy them again.
Of course.
And that's what I just hope the media don't do that with Leicester.
Yeah.
Are they going to have the characters to try and dust themselves up?
I think that they do. I mean, thinking about their team last season, Jamie Vardy always gets them riled up if they're in a position. Wes Morgan is a good captain. He's there shouting at people. Same with Casper Schmeichel, actually. Do you know what? Casper Schmeichel has matured a lot since he was younger. Because when he was younger, he used to do that, but he used to be the bad kind of shouting, you know.
He's a bit more fiery. He's a bit more calm and collected now.
Well, he's a lot more encouraging now, whereas back then he was a bit of a Ibrahimovic, where he used to shout at people for being shitter than him. Like and they can't help that. So, like it's. I think they got it. I think they have in that area. They're pretty covered, I think. But let's just talk a bit more about Ranieri. Because Ranieri, I can't believe that he wasn't picked up by another club or national team or something. Like, I cannot believe it. Like, I know that like he wanted to stay at Leicester and everything, but I didn't even hear about anyone even going in for him or anything.
Maybe it's to do with his age. Maybe it's to do with.
Do you think?
It's just so clear that a lot of managers get like swooped up and asked when they're at a younger age, or like approached by other clubs, is when other clubs believe that they can offer them something better. But do you really reckon that there's any other club that can offer Ranieri
a better deal.
a better deal what he's building at Leicester right now?
Nah.
It's a bit like Pochettino. Like, yeah, Manchester United didn't actually approach him because why would they? Because it's obviously that he's settled there, and he doesn't seem like he's an old manager as well. It seems like he's the type of manager that just wouldn't be unsettled. Or, I mean, he's managed big clubs before.
True.
It's not like it has the same allure. Maybe if he was a younger, more vibrant manager, maybe if this was a young manager right now, he would have been swooped up.
Yeah.
But he's not.
No, he isn't, is he? I mean, he's already managed like Chelsea, Monaco, Brazil.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's got a big CV. So he's been there. He's done it all. This is an exciting new project for him.
I mean, can you believe that this is the same manager that Brazil lost 7-1 to?
Can you believe this is the same manager that didn't win a single match under Greece?
That's crazy.
Like, it's
To be fair, Greece is shit though.
I know, but like, it's just. I mean, like, I think didn't Gary Lineker write like a really
scathing
review of him
Yeah.
before he even started?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, everyone had their doubts. I mean, I don't think there was a single Leicester fan that was even that happy about his appointment this time last year, and it just goes to show what a year's made.
Yeah.
What a year's made for this club. What a year.
I mean, it's just amazing, the whole thing.
And it's what it's done for the Premier League. It just puts the Premier League on the map again. There's no other league in the world where something that extraordinary would happen.
No.
And like we said, like the Premier League is not exactly, hasn't got the most amazing talent, hasn't got the best players yet. But what it is it's definitely the most entertaining.
Oh, for sure. I mean, what's the closest thing that we've had to that in recent years?
Greece probably winning the Euros.
Greece winning the Euros.
Then that's a cup competition, which is 8
Atletico
games.
Madrid maybe winning the league.
But even then, like Atletico were like that's like
They're
almost
still
like
a big club.
they're probably the equivalent to like Tottenham or Everton.
Yeah.
At the time, so it wasn't like a massive.
And I mean, Dortmund have been building for a long time before they won the league.
But like Leicester, it's almost as if like Real Oviedo, like
Yeah,
getting
exactly.
promoted and winning the league. Like it just
They're
would
in the
never
league
happen.
below. That'd be very impressive if they.
But think about it, like Leicester, what they win League One
They're in League One
5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think
I don't think it was that recently. It's a bit longer than that.
would have been 2010, 2011, maybe.
No.
5-6 years ago.
Probably 6 or 7. Probably 6 or 7 years ago.
But even
now.
so,
Yeah, still.
and before that, I mean, Leicester had a good period for them. Their best period was in like the early millennium, like 2000, when they won the League Cup.
Yeah.
And that was back then. That was seen as like astronomical for them.
One of the best teams that they ever had.
Yeah, with Emil Heskey in his peak. But it's true, and it's the first time that club has ever won the league.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show. And I reckon like other teams be like rubbing their hands and having their hands up in the air, going like the likes of West Ham, the likes of Everton, who have got far superior squads on paper.
Of
thinking,
course.
why can't we do that now?
Exactly.
So it gives it's like a beacon of hope.
It's like it's. Do you know what I love about this Leicester? This whole thing about Leicester is the implications for other clubs means that you no longer have an excuse. Like I said this about Arsenal. Like Arsenal now, to me, don't have an excuse to not win the league.
I mean, Leicester did everything that Arsene Wenger and Arsenal have been trying to do since they last won the league in 2004. Let's not talk too much about Arsenal, but
I know, but like it's very comparable though, because it's like two opposite ends of the spectrum, isn't it?
They didn't sign. They signed these unknown players that Wenger allegedly has been trying to sign for years, that have won the league playing the right style of football,
basically. And it's like, and do you know what's interesting is that people always go like, oh, fucking like long ball football is so boring. It's not if it's direct. Like direct football can be made really entertaining if it's done in the right way. Like I think Leicester are great to watch.
I think Leicester was the whole club was just the most entertaining. And we'll probably see like loads of films and documentaries about it in 10, 15 years time.
Oh yeah, most likely. Like documentaries, definitely. I mean, I heard that there was apparently going to be a film about Jamie Vardy, which would be kind of interesting.
It would be entertaining. Who would play him?
I've heard that it's Zac Efron, but I don't think that he's.
I can't
Yeah, he don't.
imagine-
Yeah, I know.
don't
He,
think it's
he
a
don't.
like for like.
He don't look like him, does he?
Yeah, but I just think Blumenek, like, I just couldn't believe it. Like, if someone had gone up to me and said, "Oh, Leicester was going to win the league this time last year," I'd just been like, send them to like a mental asylum or something. And those people that place those bets on Leicester win league, whether or not it's because you're a Leicester fan and you're doing it as a laugh, or it was just like a random thing. I mean,
can you imagine? I mean, it was so sad because the last person to have a bet on Leicester to win the league, who was a Leicester fan, he bottled it at like a couple of games before, you know, and it was kind of precarious about when they were going to lose it to Tottenham.
Catching up.
He bottled it and was just like, no, I don't want. No, I'm not risking it. What pussy?
we should both put a team. We should both place a bet on the team win the league.
Do you know what? I'm gonna put it on Borough.
I was thinking Borough. I might go with Everton. Although I don't think I'll get
Everton. That's boring. That's like kind of likely.
All right, Hull City then.
Vaguely like, yeah,
Hull
go
City.
big, go
Hull
big,
City.
Ollie.
Hull City. They've beaten Leicester. Who knows? Anyway, for our last feature, what are you thinking about the player to watch then? Who's your under the radar
player?
Yeah.
Right, I have a few, and they're actually, I'm not going to go with the obvious ones. I'm not going to go, because I think, you know, watch Vardy, watch Mahrez, watch Fuchs. I think Fuchs is a really good player. I don't know whether I think he's really good. I'm going to go with the new signings, because I'm actually aware of how good some of these signings are, which some people may not be. Ahmed Musa is fucking class.
Scored 17 goals.
He is class. Like, he is. I don't know whether you remember, there was a point where Seydou Doumbia was like an absolute god.
Yeah, like 2-3 seasons.
Very similar to him. Very similar to Seydou Doumbia, but like he was back then. He's very much about pace, and he can finish. So like he's basically what Vardy is, except Vardy's, I think, more about stamina, whereas Musa is more about pace. I think he is definitely one to look out for. Luis Hernandez, if he plays, is a very talented young centre-back. He'll do very well. I'm actually really excited to see Kapuska. I think he could fit really well into that Leicester side.
What a fantastic Euros.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Said, yeah.
He played fantastically for Poland. I mean, I think he was part of, I think, most of Poland's goals, if I seem to remember right. Like, he's a really hard-working winger. He's going to be a very good fit for Leicester.
I think he was like Poland's probably the best player.
Yeah, probably.
See, I've gone like for a player that's already at the club to watch out for, and that's their full-back, their winger. Is it Schlupp?
Oh, Jeffrey Schlupp.
Yeah, the reason why is he's won the young player twice in a row now. He's approaching the age of 23. He's very direct. He's been in the club. He played, I think, 25, 26 games last season.
Yeah.
Near the latter end. And when he was playing, their performances picked up. And I just think he's got a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah.
And I think he'll continue to. And I think he's been slightly under the radar, but obviously appreciated by his club. Doesn't really get much of the talking points, but I think if he can nail down a position to start in 11, I think it could be good.
Definitely. Oh, was. Do you know what? It was really nice talking about Leicester, actually.
It's just a refreshing story, and we honestly. There's always going to be a place for heart for that club. For what they've done for English football.
Oh, of course. I mean, I know a lot of people say that, like, a lot of fans of big clubs, I've heard it especially from Arsenal fans, saying that, like, Leicester are the worst thing that has happened to English football.
No.
They're the best thing that's ever happened for me. Like, they genuinely are. Like, it feels very much like when we were younger and we used to see teams like Portsmouth, like sort of up near the top end of the table, and teams like that.
It's breaking that mould, isn't it?
Of course, yeah.
And you know what was weird? Like a year ago, Ruth and I were talking, and I said to him, do you know what? We were talking about Leeds, and we're saying Leicester are very similar to Leeds in the sense as if they've always been kind of in the same leagues. Like, they've both dropped down to the third division. They're in the Championship. They've got the foundations to be a Premiership side. And to think that where they've come from, perceptions of what we thought about them then to now, it's just absolutely incredible. And it must give faith. It must give faith to the young players coming through Like
Oh, of
watching
course,
Jamie
yeah.
Vardy in the non-leagues, who might be disenchanted with their work. He's like a poster boy for that.
Exactly. And I mean, people would have probably thought before Jamie Vardy, they would have been like, if you're playing non-league football, that you're a non-hoper.
You've got no hope.
You got no hope. But to be fair, Jamie Vardy, I mean, I don't know whether you're aware of his career before he went to Leicester City.
Didn't he play for
Fleetwood Town. He played for Fleetwood Town and he scored like 50 goals in one season, one time. And I mean, doesn't that go to show that like hard work and dedication is really what matters in football?
And not only is it does it show that matters in football, just in general life.
In general,
hard work beats talent, like you say.
Well, it's true. Like, I mean, you look at so many. I mean, football is like a good example, but I mean, you can look anywhere. Like, if you look at, there are lots of basketball players where they're like, I mean, I think it was Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant who are the main examples, where Kobe Bryant was like taking the piss out for how shit he was at one point, and Michael Jordan was rejected from his high school team, but they both got their head down and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced, and look where they are now. Like, and then you look at someone like Ravel Morrison and Theo Walcott, who are born with all the talent in the world, all the potential, and yet they're now Pogba and Bale are now light years ahead of them because they worked hard. Like, you know, and that's what I love about Leicester as well, is they embody that kind of ethic of like, look, we don't need all the natural talent because we have heart and we have hard work. And I think that gets forgotten sometimes. Especially in this era of football where it's all about immediate gratification. It's all about having the big Galacticos and the superstars. Yeah, I mean, it's like look at what Real Madrid have done to Luka Modric, where Luka Modric in general is, you know, a pretty hard-working player, but they're like, oh my god, he's like our key player because he works hard. It's like, well, if you signed players like that maybe aren't worth as much money, you probably would be a better side, to be honest. Let's just hope that this is a change in football. Yeah, let's hope that this signals a change. I'm not hopeful, but it's something in it. It's something. See, I love this podcast. We've had a philosophical. Yeah, that all got very deep towards the end, didn't it? All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. If you could, like in the comments, just write down your favourite moment, apart from Leicester win the league, of Leicester last season that really sticks out for you. Yes, please. That would be awesome. I mean, what is it for you, do you think? I think coming back from when they lost to Arsenal and like everyone had them down, and just the general like ethos of getting back. There's just so many. What you think the moment of like when they won that next game? Yeah. I think that my favourite moment was definitely when Jamie Vardy broke that record when he scored against Manchester United. It was just the goal as well was so perfect, and it was the club against as well. Yeah, because the club, the previous holder was Van Nistelrooy. Yeah, exactly. He stole it from him. Oh, Leicester City. Anyway, we'll see you in our next preview. We'll be discussing 8th place, and we'll keep that quiet for now. We'll let that be a surprise, because I think that we're going to surprise a few people with that. I think this is when it gets a little bit more unpredictable. All right then, we'll see you guys next time. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content, please, and let us know your thoughts about Leicester and where you think they'll finish. Thank you very much. Bye bye. See ya.